you for joining us today with Broken Terrain. You've made a good choice of joining in today because we're doing our first series on Broken Terrain. And it's going to be talking a lot about brokenness, reigning, pride, humility, and how it will help you and myself in reaching our a successful purpose for what we're here for in this lifetime. I'm going to talk a little bit about what brokenness is and then what reigning is. Brokenness is when you come to the end of all hope, or you come to the end of yourself where you just don't know what to do or how to figure it out, and your heart is hurting and you feel like you just cannot make it. Uh, Reigning, which is, we said, broken to reign. Reigning is coming to a part of yourself where you have reached like the best part or the most important part of where you're supposed to be in life, and it's working for you, it's happening, and it's in your best stage. So you're broken to reign. And a lot of us don't want to be broken. We feel like we don't want to go through anything. But sometimes we have to realize that God's hand is in our brokenness. And what the purpose or the choice that we have to make is, in your brokenness, are you going to be wasted? Meaning that you didn't make good choices or use wisdom at the time of brokenness, or are you going to be restored to the place where you're supposed to be? And a lot of time where he's trying to do is break off some of those bad attitudes or things about us. He's breaking those off of us to take us to a higher level. God always works in the future. He never works in the past. He's always working to where you're going. And where he's trying to get us to is to our best fruits. And if you go to Galatians 5:22 and 23, it says, "But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, forbearance, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self control. Against such things there is no law." So we have to realize that we're broken to reign, and we've all been broken before. We're going to be, our first episode that we're going to be talking about in this series is Pride Leads to Brokenness. A lot of time we wonder, why am I broken? Why am I going through? The first question that I asked myself was, why me? Lord, why me? So I'm going to give you a little bit about my testimony. I've been broken, and I've been through 3 failed marriages, which I think the last marriage, I was just devastated. I was on the floor, and I was asking the Lord, why me? And God let me know. He gave me this subject, broken terrain. And I was like, broken terrain? What is that? And I got up off the floor and I began to write down what broken terrain was all about. And he was saying that a lot of us are broken, but we have to realize in our brokenness what are the lessons that we're learning. And then we have to do a lot of reflecting instead of deflecting. And it causes, if we start reflecting, it'll start letting us look at ourselves, and we'll start being more transparent about what we've gone through. And we'll realize that our testimony is our purpose and what we're really here for. And it's going to help us to help somebody else. So when we talk about pride leads to brokenness, sometimes we're too prideful. And God had to let me know that, Barbara, you were trying to hold everything up. You were trying to, do this. You kept a lot of secrets in the marriages. You were trying to just be really, I was trying to be God in a couple of those marriages where I was trying to run the thing, make sure it looked this way or that way. And sometimes when you're trying to carry it all, it ends up you're the one that's sabotaging yourself. Pride will cause you to sabotage yourself. And pride is a spirit. It's a way of how you operate in your own life and in the way you operate, even in the way you do business, the way you deal with relationships, the way you deal with family and friends. So you have to sometimes step back and look at yourself, how you're operating, reflect on yourself. I'm going to give some characteristics of pride because sometimes I wrote a book, and this is the book, Broken Terrain. But in the book, I had a lot of characteristics of pride where people, I know for myself, I just thought pride was when you have an over inflated definition of who you are and what you can do and about yourself and how you look, how you dress, just things like that. But that was just nothing compared to what God began to reveal to me and wanted me to reveal to others what pride really was. And really, pride started um, in heaven when Satan just said, "Oh no, I can take over this thing." He was very gifted, very talented, and most leaders and people who have leadership positions, all of them have to be broken. And the reason being is because they really need to know that it didn't come from themselves, but it came from the maker, their creator, and that they are a vessel being used to get the message across or get the job done, but they usually fall back into thinking it's more about themselves. So that's why pride leads to brokenness. Some of the characteristics of pride is haughtiness, self-centeredness, selfishness, self-righteousness, segregation, defensiveness. We like to, we get defensive. If anybody say a little something, you get a little upset and get a little defensive. You can see some of these things: strife, conceit, arrogance, rebellious, crooked, perverse, disobedient. One of the things I found out about myself, even with some of the marriages, I know the first marriage, I was only 19, and my mother and my father kept trying to tell me that I was a little too young, and I didn't listen. I really didn't. And I was very, rebellious, where I felt like I knew what I needed to do, or I wanted to do it this way. I wanted my way or no way. But end up, it was just, as you look back over your life, you realize that, man, if I would have just listened, if I would have just, allowed my parents, because they were, they had some wisdom, but I felt like I knew it all, and I was able to make those decisions on my own. And it ended up in a bad situation where I had to go through a lot. But you have to realize that in all that you went through, was it wasted? Meaning, was it where you didn't gain anything from it? Or were you restored, where you learned from it, you gained from it, you were able to share? Even now with my daughter, I can share with her, no, don't go that way. You might need to go this way, because it was something that you took in and you built on. So God has a lot. His hands are in our brokenness, and he really wants the best for us. But we have to know that pride can lead to brokenness. I wanted to read this part in the book. It says, when facing our personal brokenness, any hope of restoration often eludes us. It seems safer to accept the loss, meaning that we just feel like, I'm broken, I'm just gonna go through it and nothing's gonna come out of it. But it say we're unaware of God's hand in brokenness. Jesus had to be broken, so what about us? Thank you for listening to this episode, and episode 2 is coming up next. Have a blessed and wonderful day.